Hello everybody, welcome to Eng Lang Pro's YouTube channel. My name is Tori, I'm one of the tutors on the team, and today we are going to talk about how to find and prepare your contemporary examples for the end of year exam essay section C. So some of you, if you're in year 10 or 11, you might not have any idea what I'm talking about here. No worries at all. So for your essay, you need to pack it full with evidence for your argument. So you'll be given a prompt. It'll be talking about language in wider contemporary Australian society, and you need to have a contention about that prompt. What do you think? Yes, no, yes, a little bit, no, a little bit, and then you need to be able to back it up with linguist quotes, which is like your expert evidence. You need to have stimulus material, at least one, and we recommend just one, because if you use too much stimulus material, it's a sign that you don't have enough contemporary examples, which is the third thing that you need to include. So contemporary examples are within the last year from last year's EngLang exam. So we recommend just finding all of them from 2025. It's definitely possible. It's just better for the final exam for you to be able to demonstrate that you have found more contemporary examples than just 2024. Of course, if you're watching this in the future, for the year that you're sitting the exam. All right, so you need at least 2 per paragraph when you come in. That's because your paragraph needs at least 3 pieces of evidence, and one of those can be a linguist quote. One across your whole essay, one of them can be an anecdote, which I'll talk about at the end. And one of them could be a stimulus material, and therefore everything else needs to be made up of contemporary examples. So at least 2 per paragraph. We recommend you come in with at least 10 because you don't know what the topic is going to be when you sit down for your exam. So you need to make sure that you have enough examples to cover all your bases. So let's talk about those bases. So when I came into the exam, I probably had about 15 contemporary examples lined up, but with practice, you get to know what you're more likely to write in the essay. And that's because you get a lot of practice writing essays only. And as soon as you get to maybe like having written 10 essays, you know, I tend to go for the jargon paragraph because I'm really good at that. And I know that I'm going to end up writing an essay on identity. In the VCE English Language exam, there's always going to be at least 1 essay topic on Unit 3, and at least 1 on Unit 4, usually 2. So for me, I knew that I was probably going to go for an identity essay. I was more confident with that by the time I'd finished my practice anyway. So I figured jargon examples, I had 2 of them because I knew I was going to talk about jargon. Slang, I had some examples. I had linguist quotes for slang, all of that jazz. So that comes with practice. So I'm teaching you today how to find your contemporary examples and analyze them, but you need to become more aware of what you're more likely to use in your final essay based on your practice. Practice, as always. So let's go into those topics, those bases that we want to cover. So for Unit 3, obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about formality. So we've got formal versus informal language. And I'm putting question marks here, jargon and slang. Jargon being more connected with the formal side and slang being more connected with the informal side. And you'll see that there is definitely overlap between these factors across Unit 3 and Unit 4, which is why, you know, English language is a whole subject that is integrates these ideas across the whole year. So there are some things that are more higher yield for you to find contemporary examples for because they're more versatile. You can use them for more topics. So for me, slang and jargon were really, really important to find contemporary examples on, and easy as well, because I could talk about them in Unit 3 and I could talk about them in Unit 4. Similarly, we've got social purpose, so politeness strategies. I definitely found some examples of politeness that I can use in my contemporary examples part of my essay, and political correctness, which you can use that in a politeness strategies paragraph if you wanted to. Unit 4, we've got Australian English, super important. So accents, here's a good place to bring in an IPA. So even if you were to use this as your anecdotal example, you can use it and include an IPA, a little section of IPA. So IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, you don't need to know it according to the study design. You need to have an awareness of IPA. But for us, whenever we read an essay, anyone on the team reads an essay that you guys have written and we're marking it, as soon as there's a little piece of IPA, we know this student really knows their stuff. So I recommend having a look, see if you can find an IPA example, especially because accents are hard to describe without IPA because it's phonological. So recommend something like a diphthong for versus monophthong for Australian English. So apparently we say like boik with a like an OI sort of diphthong sound, being two different sounds in the one vowel, instead of but I don't know how to say it with monophthong, bike, I guess. But yeah, that could be something that you guys can look into. Aboriginal English. So important that you guys have a little bit of an awareness about differences between standard Australian English and the Aboriginal English variants. There's so many of them, so many. So you don't need to be able to determine between different Aboriginal language groups, definitely not, but there's definitely a chance that you'll be given a text that involves some Aboriginal English being spoken. So you should be able to identify, and a good way to do this is in a transcript. This goes for ethnolex, accents, Aboriginal English, anything that's like non-standard. Whenever you see something that is spelt wrong in a transcript, that's because VCAR is telling you, hey, analyze this. So red flag. Because otherwise, why would they spell it wrong? Right? So they're trying to represent the spoken form of what's being said in the actual text. Cool. So those are accents, Aboriginal English, and ethnolex. So ethnolex, a lot of you guys will actually have spoken at home. So this could be a good place for you guys to bring in your anecdote. Otherwise, we're moving on to individual and group identity, huge part of Unit 4. So we've got that social identity, age, gender, occupation, interests, education, background, massive. So background links in with ethnolex and Aboriginal English and accents, but things like age-related language, super easy to find slang examples and slang linguist quotes, and I highly recommend you do. Genderlex, definitely a thing. Have a look. So interesting with a little bit of research. It's a rabbit hole for sure. Occupation sits really nicely with jargon as well. So see how there is definitely overlap between the different themes that you're going to be talking about. E-speak, an age-related language we just touched on. E-speak in particular is huge part of young people's language. And I've got an example down below, but we'll get to that in a second. Group membership and covert norms as well. Very interrelated ideas. And then here we've got attitudes: overt, covert norms, prescriptivism, descriptivism, and power and prestige. So ideally, by the end of the year, you guys should be confident about writing about any of these factors with at least one contemporary example, probably two. All right, so with that being said, let's get into how to find your contemporary examples. And it's actually way easier than you think. For me, I downloaded Twitter in year 12 and followed all the politicians. And you guys have this godsend, which is the federal election coming up. So you guys have the opportunity to analyze everything politicians are saying, because they're saying a lot right now. What comes into that political correctness, which is not just what any politician says, but it's about using language to avoid offending people in particular. So definitely Twitter is a go-to. TikTok, if you have it, just say it's because of English language you're doing research, because if you're especially on Aussie TikTok, it'll help you out a lot because you can find contemporary examples just like that. I even used a Reddit example in my year 12 essay. I just included the username and the month and year so that it could be found by examiners. All right, so what do? Type in your keyword, which for me it's political correctness, language, Australia 2025, and then go to the news tab. And so that's how you're going to find the contemporary examples. So bam, like this is an absolute gold example. Monash Lens, is Australian English under threat from the Americans? It's not as simple as you might think. A month ago. Beautiful. So this is literally an example, not only an example, but an analysis from Kate Burridge and Howard Mans. These are linguists that you guys will be quoting in your exams. So this is absolutely amazing that they've posted this so recently. And we're talking about the Americanization of Australian slang and our culture, how so much American media influences us, and there's a bit of a historical background here. I highly, highly recommend you guys read this. What do we lose when languages die? Listen to this as well. Like, you guys, Monash Lens, it's definitely going to be a legitimate source that you can quote. It's a beautiful article. I highly, highly recommend you guys read this. And it's like, I'm actually like, look at this. Nick isn't a twist over nothing. We love our Aussie lexicon. American influence isn't clear cut. British usage accepts both I's and I's, which using Notion, very, very frustrating, as you guys can probably tell. I think I've got some red. Oh no, those are just. Oh, here we go. Utilize. Anyway, personal experience as well. So that's one already. You guys can read through this article, find what is the most relevant to what you want to talk about, and then what I do is I get a spreadsheet. So I think I use Google Sheets. I used Google Sheets when I was in year 12, but here's an example on Notion, just so the notes are all together, from a Minecraft movie, which I recently went to see. So they use the word unalive in the Minecraft movie. So who said it? What are the topics that are relevant to English language, which we've put here? And then what is the analysis? So always add your link so you can find it easily. The quote and who, because you're going to need that when you're writing it in your essays. And then the topics, that's to help guide you in your analysis. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this link, pop it in. Who said it? Howard, Mans, and Kate Burridge. Or you can just say Monash Lens. And then what are the topics? Cultural context, in-group membership, colloquial language, language Australianisms. And then you guys need to analyze it. So for me, I'm thinking, when am I more likely to use something from this article? And it's probably to do with Australian language. So I could say something like, due to the overwhelmingly large impact of American media on Australians, some are worried, some wonder whether Australian English is being affected. And then you're going to give example, who, which is Monash Lens, or the authors, who, when, so it was a month ago, so it'll be March 25. And then analysis, which I'm going to leave to you guys. But we can go through this actual analysis that I've written in for the Minecraft movie. So the topics I'm going to talk about is in-group membership, particularly between teenagers, and the out-group. So more like inter-group membership. But let's read through the analysis. So, due to the Masonic mortar quality of slang to stick members of a group together, which is a Kate Burridge quote that I use in year 12 a lot, out-group members may utilize it for intergroup rapport building. So what I'm saying is that people who are not within the teenage group might use age-related language or slang in order to build rapport with that group. For example, producers of a Minecraft movie 2025 attempt to bond with their primarily teenage audience despite being middle-aged in order to be more humorous, relatable, and ultimately sell more tickets. So I've connected it to purpose and intent there as well. The Aglo-speak, so guys, Aglo-speak, really interesting. It's just about the specifically internet language that we have. In fact, I'll find an example. I'll find the definition for you guys. So Aglo-speak is the use of coded expressions to evade automated moderation algorithms on social media platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. So really, really interrelated with our age and the people who have grown up on the internet, the people who are using e-speak the most. So it goes with both age-related language and e-speak. But let's get back to the analysis. So, the Aglo-speak unalive is popular in online discussion forums such as TikTok or YouTube in order to avoid censorship such platforms implement on deemed inappropriate topics such as killing. Censorship such platforms implement on deemed inappropriate, yeah. When a Minecraft movie uses unalive, the producers are using e-speak, there wouldn't See, this is why it's important to read through your writing. They wouldn't when interacting with people their own age, thus code switching to be seen positively by the audience. So this is something I just put together just before recording, and all I've done is practiced how I'm going to integrate this contemporary example with my essay topic on age-related language or intergroup membership. So I'm talking about how they might, and I might go on to say, despite this, it was seen as cringe or it didn't work because of how strongly interrelated to the age this language is. So see how when you get your contemporary examples, you can use them in so many different ways, and so exciting and interesting. Anyway, back to it. So let's have a look at this article. Dudes, dudines, and dudettes of Australia. We need to talk about border security. Our longtime frenemies. So frenemies, what is this? It's not a neologism, pretty old, but it's a blend. For many Aussies, our linguistic border security, cultural and national urgencies. Are we good at policing? Long before submarines and supersized fast food. And then this is a bit of history that I recommend you guys have a read of. And then thousands of American expressions have in fact snuck in over the years without detection. So cinch, layoff, okay, block, state, apparently all of these are US terms. So even classic Australianisms are US terms. So what might we talk about this? Let me put that in. So maybe we'll talk about how cultural context shapes language, including shift of meaning or claiming of lexicon. So, for example, diggers is seen as a very stereotypically, historically Australian term, but as we've just read, it's American. So, are we threatened by Americanisms, or are we able to adopt language that comes from overseas and make it our own? So maybe I'm arguing in my essay that despite worries from Australians that our unique language is being threatened, we are able to adapt to borrowings and language infiltration to make it our own. So cultural context affects language rather than language affects cultural context. So those are just some ideas I'm throwing around. All right, let's have a look what else we want to talk about. Let's do Australian slang, super common one. And just Australian slang, political 2025. So I put political in because might as well, right? You're in the middle of an election, and there's going to be a lot of talking. So beautiful. Let's do another Monash lens one. So Australia's 2025 election has given us a pair of F-grade slogans. So let's talk about slogans: fine, functional, and forgettable. So this is very, very Australian. Triple F slogans. Why are they saying this? Good slogan tends to use Old English words. They are words with the longest heritage in the English language. Short, impactful, and accessible. Words derived from French, Latin, and Greek tend to be opaque and sound like business jargon. So here, this is already something we can talk about in terms of clarity of language. And politically speaking, why do we want to be so clear? It's because we want to be able to get to all the voters. So this actually works for jargon as well. You can argue that jargon is obfuscation in language because it doesn't allow people who are not educated in that field to understand it. Why might politicians not use jargon in this situation in terms of slogans, but why might they use them in Parliament in order to come across as experts? So much to read about just from Googling that. Same thing with jargon. If I wanted to just talk about jargon Australia 2025, bam. University of Wollongong launches new disability terminology guide. That's not even just jargon. Socially appropriate language and behavior, that's not even jargon, that's political correctness in terms of analyzing language. So you guys can talk about that. And this is great. I remember in my year 12 exam, I used the RMIT Guide to Inclusive Language. This is even better because it is so contemporary that they've even updated it. So you can talk about how political correctness is growing in order to achieve the egalitarian values of Australian society. So I realized I forgot to tell you guys about the personal example. So for anecdotes, you're allowed one in your exam, and we recommend you only use one personal pronoun as well, just because same way you don't want to use too many stimulus material. If you use too many anecdotes, which you can literally just make up in the exam, the examiners will take that to mean you haven't done your research for contemporary examples. And just to finish up, I want to show you guys something from ELP's website. This is from 2023, so these are outdated examples. You can no longer use them, but they're a good example of how some people on the team have analyzed and found examples for ELP students. So the LGBTQ plus inclusive language guide, the Indigenous voice, that was a big thing in 2023, Spill the Tea advertising campaign, all of this, and I will link this down below in the description because we're going to make this available for everybody since it's now out of date. So have a look through, have a look how it's been written out, what is relevant, the example and the quote, the context, and the analysis to help you guys with your own research. So there you go. That is my way to find and prepare your contemporary examples. Googling all the keywords with Australia 2025, go to the news tab, have a look at articles that have been submitted, have been published in the last year, and go through, find the specific quote, write it down in your quote, link who said it, what are the topics, and then practice with your analysis. This part is important because you want to be able to come in, sit down, not only know your contemporary example, but know how you're going to write about it, how you're going to integrate it into your topic. So I hope that was helpful for everybody. Please let me know in the comments below what you guys want to see in the future, and all the best for your study.